everyone. My name is Deneen White, and I am the host of the Coffee in the Green Room podcast. Here on Coffee in the Green Room, we have those conversations you may not have outside of the green room, but you have behind the scenes. Today, I am so excited to have Jackson Crisp here on the podcast. Jackson, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, definitely. It's very much a pleasure.
We've been trying to do this for so long, and here we are in Vegas.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, can you tell my audience just a little bit about you?
Yeah. So I have, I'll keep it shorter.
You can.
I have ADHD, so every 2 years it's something new. But no, I've been I'd say a lifetime inventor, always coming up with ideas, and have finally gotten to a stage where I've done some shots to monetize, and now we're at a stage with one of my ideas where we're moving into it full force and working on some funding and doing a startup around it. So that's got a lot of my time.
Yeah.
And then I'm also the vice president for the NFL Alumni Las Vegas chapter. And what that means is we do a lot of children events for the community and charitable programs, and we also take care of our own. So
that's awesome.
Especially the folks that played and paved the way for the game back in, we called them the pre-93s. So we try to do things for them and make things available. And then also I'm an advisor for Unsilenced Voices.
Oh, wow.
Which is a human trafficking, domestic abuse prevention initiative that is founded by Michelle Dewsbury. So
she's a good friend of ours too.
Yeah, so I always
awesome.
like to give her a shout out and the alumni a shout out. Whenever I get a chance. Then I dabble in acting.
Yes.
So I've done
You've
a couple
been doing
movies
so
lately.
much. That's awesome.
And that's my fun. That's just a blast for me. And I know that's your wheelhouse. So
yeah,
awesome.
definitely. So much to unpack. So let's start with the NFL alumni. Mm-hmm. For those of us like myself who don't know, what is a pre-93 or what does that mean?
And I'm also going to say that I do speaking.
Yeah.
I forgot.
He's an amazing
coaching.
speaker too. So he does everything. We're going to cover all the bases today.
And that's what I'm starting to get back into doing a lot of. But what we mean by pre-93 is the guys that there's sort of an era where the money wasn't anything like it is now.
Yeah.
In terms of sort of life-changing money.
Yeah, like the endorsements and all now. What is it, not IRL?
Mm-hmm. College.
Oh my gosh, so
paid.
much has changed.
So there's a lot of money being shared more now with the athletes, and especially in football. Mm-hmm. And so these folks, the pre-93s, didn't have access to that. The equipment was not as good.
Yeah.
When I say not as good, I'm being light with that. And also our training techniques in terms of how we hit. There was a lot more trauma to the body, I would say, because it was especially head trauma.
Yeah.
And so we call them pre-93s because sort of the guys that paved the way for what we know as football today.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's great that you're giving back to them and that you're doing so much for the community. So that must feel really good, especially because you were in the NFL, you were on the Jets, and I know I joked around. I'm not going to hold that against you, but so it's really cool that you're able to give back to people that really need it, because a lot of times when people think of athletes, they're like, "Oh my God, how did you fumble that ball?" Or because I'm a crazy fan too, but like there's a human playing in that game, so it's really cool to know that there are people like you that are helping the athletes.
We try as much as we can. So there's I'm not going to remember the number of chapters, but we try to have a chapter that represent, not that we're representing all alumni.
Yeah.
But we try to be present in cities where there's teams. That's awesome. And then our headquarters is in New Jersey.
Sorry about that. I'm from Jersey.
And so there's a lot of injuries and stuff that happens behind the scenes that a lot of folks aren't familiar with. Yeah. And so, we do our best to do stuff there. And then we have kids camps, or we partner with charities like Marlon Greenwood Foundation.
Okay.
You know Marlon?
I feel like I do.
He's our president.
Okay.
So he played 8 years in the NFL. I didn't play. My career was cut short because of bad surgery very early on.
Yeah.
but if you made a paycheck, you were eligible to be an officer
There you
or
go.
to make some money. So, and they like the business acumen that I bring
Yeah.
to the organization as well, and I love helping.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I started off just helping them, and then was on their board of directors, and then they asked me to go up for vice president. So
That's awesome.
pretty
Very cool.
Definitely an honor. Yeah.
Now, talk about your business acumen as well, because when I talk to you, I try to comprehend what you're saying, because you've done so many really amazing things. So talk about like the business side of Jackson Crisp.
So I would say when I talk about just I'm an inventor at heart my whole life. So I have several patents to my name, and I've tried to bring some of them to market. So having an idea and even patenting an idea are completely different to realizing an
Oh my
idea.
gosh, yeah.
Right?
I know a lot of people with a lot of ideas.
Yeah. So I always tell people, oh, that's a great idea.
High five. Good job.
You're about 2%, 1% in now. So, I've been working this patent that I call realizing now, or monetizing, we started that back in 2010.
Wow.
Right.
So it's a 14-year journey.
Yeah, and obviously I've done other things.
Yeah, of course.
But that's just sort of, these patents have terms of, depending on some guidelines and all that, about 20 years. And
Really?
yeah, so they're a pretty big deal. And this particular patent, or family of patents now, because we're still developing IP on it, or not IP, continuations off of it, and that means we're keeping it alive.
Yeah.
Which is important, but
It's important because it's your intellectual property, and once that patent ends, then it's a free for all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's got a majority of my time, and there's a licensing aspect with this particular project, and then there's a developing an app or developing the service aspect to it. So, it's definitely got me learning a lot. This the other products I brought to market were a physical product.
Okay.
So
This is a tech product.
This is a tech product, which is
Wild, Wild
completely
West.
different. Yeah, wild
Woof.
west, and investors, and
Yeah.
so it's awesome because I rise to those challenges. I like
Yeah,
the next
you
levels.
love that.
And I love the people I'm meeting, and definitely have a lot of that whole law of attraction thing.
Yeah.
When it's ready, and
Yeah.
you're prepared, it will come.
Yeah, and you know what?
Type of thing.
I
So,
love that you say that, because I deal with a lot of actors and models, and they're like, I'm going to manifest it. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing to manifest it? Because they think, like, and law of attraction too, I think there's such a misunderstanding about it, where it's like, oh, I'm going to attract it. And I'm like, okay, that's all, I believe in that.
Yeah.
But you have to take action to attract those things. Like, in order for you to do amazing things, you have to become the person who can handle doing amazing things.
your
So
tolerance,
yeah, so I love that. Like, you're attracting it, but you're not just sitting there. Come on, come on! Like, you're putting in the work to attract these things.
Yeah, well, I said consistent action, right?
Yeah.
Focus, consistent action.
Yeah.
To get the law of attraction.
Yeah.
The secret talks. That's sort of one of the things that was missing, and I don't get on people for a dream. But when you're just dreaming, that's not the law of attraction.
No.
Right? Or wishing.
Yeah, wish upon a star. No, no, don't do that, because like a lot of times, especially with actors and models, like, it's my dream. I'm like, okay, well, when do you dream? You dream when you're sleeping. Dreaming is passive.
Yeah.
Achieving goals is active. You have to take action.
Yeah, realize your dream.
Yeah.
Right, through action. So
Yep.
yeah, it's super important. And it's funny, I haven't talked about this ever, but like lottery tickets, I'm like, why would anyone, you can create your own, you need to create your own lottery.
Yeah, like,
Right?
you
Create the opportunities that make
Yeah.
that happen. Don't passively, what drives me nuts
Yeah, and
when people just expect it.
that's how I feel about gambling too. Like, we're in Las Vegas, right? And people are like, "Oh, are you going to gamble?" I'm like, "Listen, if I'm going to put out $20, I'm going to get a cocktail or food, because I get a guarantee. Like, I know what I'm getting.
have a full
I'm not putting $20 on red. I'm not like, no, I want like." And I've never been. Maybe it's because I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I'm the complete opposite. But I like like for everything I've done, I've taken action, like, you know, and I love, I could talk about this all day long because this is like one of my hot button topics. I'm like, stop manifesting, start doing, you know what I mean? But you're taking action. But let's talk about the law of attraction and you acting, okay? Because that's really cool too. Like again, you're taking the steps. So can you talk a little bit about what you're doing with acting?
Yeah, so I was a project. I still am a project. Doesn't leave your blood.
Yeah.
But I was doing project management work as a contractor for a big company in California, and I've always had the creative side.
Yeah,
I love it, and sometimes I wonder if I didn't go into the wrong thing at school, right? But you can't question that. There's a reason for it. But during that time, I took a couple acting classes in L.A. with I can't remember his name now, but he was the Clooney's coach.
Oh wow, okay.
I don't remember his name. He happened to drop that when I was at a class, and I did that for about a year, and that was maybe 15 years ago, 12 or 15 years ago. And I loved it, and I started getting called to casting calls for even roles because the casting directors just sort of liked me, right? And I was doing this, and then all of a sudden I just packed up and left for a job somewhere, right? So it wasn't, that's one thing I wonder how far that would have went back then, because I really did enjoy it.
Yeah.
But fast forward, it was what it was, and fast forward to today where I'm doing more speaking and business coaching. I got asked from some people in the industry to, hey, come do some rigging stuff with our stunt people. So I went and just did that for fun, just for the experience.
Nice.
And for a video game.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
And then the stunt guys introduced me to someone else, and all of a sudden they're asking me now to be in movies, right? So I've been asked to be in a couple movies.
Wow.
And I they like what I'm doing, so I'm still doing that, and it's a lot of fun. But there was something. Hold on, what was I going to say? That's what. And I talked to your folks last night about that. I think it's fun because I don't need it.
Yeah.
Right, and even if I, because I do love it, and if I were to get into it, I would love it and do very well at it.
Yeah, you definitely would.
I would keep progressing at it, next levels with it.
Yeah.
But I don't need it.
Yeah.
Right? And so when I'm there, I'm not beholden to, and anyone can do this as long as you're taking care of your basics.
Yeah.
Right? You're not, and that doesn't mean being rude or being a diva or anything like that. It's just, I've learned in this industry and in other things I've worked that you're going to have people that are harder to work with and easier to work with. And in this industry, right, the
especially
acting industry,
in the entertainment industry, holy, I could tell you stories that curl your hair, Jackson.
And I actually love it. Even if someone's difficult, because you see through, you just sort of know.
And you're so tall, you can be like, really? Come on now.
No.
Are you serious?
Well, it's a matter of just filling their heart.
No, I know.
Yeah. And I do that. So even with the stuff you call the bad or the hardest stuff to deal with.
Yeah.
When you're at a point where I don't say not caring in terms of the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
But where it's just they're not going to control your mood or how you live in those moments or after. Mm-hmm. It's very freeing, and I think when people get a sense of that, everyone wants that.
Yeah.
And so they sense that, and all of a sudden there's a bond made, right? That's just a little different. They want to see you win. Yeah. And that's becoming memorable also. Yeah. Right? So, and I'm just picking this apart. Even now, right now, I'm going, okay, Yeah. Because but that's part of becoming memorable. Mm-hmm. And in this industry and anything you're doing
in life, in 2024, this is
authentically memorable. Yeah. Right. So you're at top of mind when an opportunity comes. I tell kids that all the time. Yeah. If you're coaching, if you're working, do your best. So when you get brought up or when a situation comes up, you're at top of mind for someone. Yeah. To say, hey, I know someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Keep your eye on this kid or keep your eye on that guy or keep your eye on that gal. Yeah. So.
And that happens all the time in the entertainment industry because one of our good friends, it was 50 Cent's acting coach, but the way he got that role was not because he was an acting coach. He went up for a role for something, and his audition was so memorable, they actually held on to his headshot.
Yeah.
Fast forward a year, 50 Cent is getting into acting from music, and his manager was like, listen, you're good, but you need a little coaching.
Yeah.
And he was playing against someone who looked a lot like Robert Galinsky, who's the man I'm referencing. And the acting coach was like, the manager's like, hold on, we have someone to help you.
Okay.
And it was because he was so memorable in his audition. He didn't get that role, but then now he got this other role working with Curtis, like, to help him get into the industry.
Yeah.
And it's all because he was memorable. And something about you is like the way you leave people feeling, it's definitely memorable. And that's such an amazing thing because, again, in this world, like, we need more authentic people who are authentically who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that about you. And now you're coaching people and you're doing more speaking.
Yeah.
So talk
That's where
about
my
being,
heart's at.
so talk about that.
So because of this startup stuff I'm working on, and the NFL alumni, those do have but they got to get paid. You got to get paid.
You got to get paid.
You're right. Even while you're in the startup mode or development mode, waiting for investments. Mm-hmm. So, I was speaking more, doing paid speaking and more public speaking, probably a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And then I realized that my split focus was hurting the business, the work that I was doing. So I sort of zeroed in on that. Mm-hmm. I still spoke for camps and kids and on panels and stuff like that, right? Which I love.
Yeah.
But in terms of doing paid speaking, I put that on hold, and also coaching. I was doing private client coaching with some folks, some pretty high level folks, and getting into some group stuff as well. But I put that on hold, and then it's good, and because now I'm to the point where I don't want to be the CEO eventually of a. Right now, for all the investors out there,
He's all in.
I'm all in.
All in.
But
all his money's in.
But when it's up and running, I'm fine training someone to backfill me. And then my passion is speaking. Yeah. Impacting people, coaching. I'm learning on how I want to do that. Yeah. Because my time is very important to me.
Time is your only non-renewable resource.
Exactly.
You have to be wise with your time.
Yeah, so just surrounding yourself with amazing people that if you're going to coach them, and being selective again, not just taking someone because you need to take someone.
Yeah, don't take them just for the money. Take them because you know that there's a synergy and that you can help them get to the next level.
And they're going to help. There's going to be a synergy there, right? Yeah. It's not just going to be a taking vortex.
Yeah.
and there's
we could talk efforts. If you need to. We're not going to talk about that on the podcast, but
so, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I want to get back in, and I got to dust off the pipes a little bit, and we're starting to back up again.
That's amazing because the presentation that you did yesterday impacted. You may not know this, but there's going to be a long-term impact on the lives of the people that you spoke to, because when you speak, your words are so genuine, and the way that you speak, people can take what you said and go apply it. Yeah. And I think that's something, like, so many times speakers want to, oh my gosh, flower, like, we're not in Shakespeare's world, you know what I mean? Like, I sometimes I listen to speakers, I'm like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to make yourself happy, or are you talking to make the audience call them to action? And you definitely have that gift. And with your experience, like, my gosh.
I actually worry about that sometimes, that I'm too real or too direct. But I think I balance it pretty well. You talked about being an empath person that you're feeling without getting too much into the woo, but I'm the same. Yeah. You can sort of feel what an audience is needing, or what a person's needing.
Yeah, I feel the energy, but like I can feel it from like when. Yeah. But the awesome thing about being an empath is when you learn how to use that. Like, I used to see it as a weakness. Like, I used to hate being an empath. Like, I literally like I can be like when I was a kid, there was this point where Someone I had never even met who was a relative passed away, and I cried for 3 days. And my family was, "What's wrong with you? Stop crying!" I'm like, I don't know. But then we found out, but now like I use it to help people, and I've learned I'm not a master of it by any stretch of the imagination, but I've definitely learned how to shield myself a little bit.
Boundaries.
Yeah, the boundaries. Boundaries used to be a 4-letter word, but now they're like one of my best friends. Like, boundary, come on, whatever you need.
Well, that's the biggest thing in this industry too, right? Emotional, but just boundaries, and also your self-esteem.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of, and we're all humans. So I'm not going to say when someone says, "Oh, that was a crap job," or whatever, or
like,
someone does
like,
negative, like, "What? Oh,
no! Oh my God!"
But again, you just got to. Yeah, when you believe in yourself enough, you just got to let it go. And then on the times, because again, we're all human, when I am more vulnerable or I'm being worn down, like, people don't see that with me, right? Because I don't put myself in positions where I need to, where I'm going to affect a lot of people.
Yeah.
And affect me because I'm not where I need to be in terms of in terms of setting boundaries, right? And so those sanctuaries to recover are completely okay, and you need to be doing those, for yourself and your sanity. And part of that's becoming aware. If you're starting to, and especially, I do want to talk a little bit. No, I don't need to, but about the environment.
No, right talk now, about
it. This environment. I a mentor of mine, Les Brown, talks about setting someone a guard to your mind, right, with the information that's entering your mind.
Yeah.
And we need to be doing that vigilantly right now. People are so quick to put each other down and to label whole groups of people without knowing anyone in that group of people.
I know.
And it's behavior that when we were kids, I'm not going to date myself, right, but it would be very disrespectful and it wouldn't be acceptable.
My mom would have whooped me for some people. I mean, she would have.
Now we're adults.
Her wooden spoon would have been like on my tuchus.
Yeah.
Yeah, like.
I'm just saying this. I don't get caught up in this side or that side, but I say if you lean into your values, in terms of valuing good people who are trying to live in this life and have their own problems and issues, and contributing and not breaking laws.
Yeah.
And things like that are hurting people.
Yeah.
You need to respect that and their path and what they're doing, and lean back into our values.
Yeah, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. How about that? How about we do unto others? How about that? Let's take it back to the golden rule.
Yeah, similar.
Especially in this political climate, because and even like this is no longer going to be an evergreen podcast, but there's a lot of controversy going on right now with the opening ceremonies of the Olympics.
I just found out about.
I did too.
I do guard my mind.
Yeah, no,
I
like
don't watch news, and I watch it enough so I'm not surprised or sucker punched.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, no, but like there is so much controversy going on, and the Christians are mad at these people and these people. But you know what the thing is like we all need to take personal responsibility for the information that goes into our head, but also for the way that we treat one another. Maybe if we were all having a dialogue instead of talking at one another
and
weaponizing it, maybe we could change the world.
Yeah, because I know that a silent majority, I have to believe this. You don't hear about it because they're quiet. They're quiet. They're guarding their mind. They're just guarding their mind, and they know values, and they know what's. Yeah. And so I would just, when you start sort of pounding your chest and being judgmental and weaponizing stuff, that's not a good look. At least for me, it's not a good look. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to say, I'm never going to talk. I don't
we're all
do that.
Human.
Yeah, we're all human, and that's sort of looking. So that whole looking at the good versus the bad stuff. Yeah. Right, but it's just not a look that's uplifting people.
Yeah,
right. It's alienating at least half the people.
Yeah,
and it's not helping at least half the people, and that should be that's especially if you have microphones and
if you have microphones and a following, you have a more. well, I mean, obviously people don't have a moral obligation
No.
because we see but
Yeah.
the way I live my life, and I believe the way that you live your life, is we want to leave the planet better.
Mm-hmm.
And how, like, 95% of the time, I would say,
Yeah.
like, okay, is what I'm doing making a positive impact on the world? Like, I would love to be, but again, I'm a human being, and some days emotions just get the better of me, especially when I'm driving.
Absolutely.
But why can't people just want to leave the world a better place? Why do we have to be so selfish?
I think that most people do.
Yeah,
They think they are.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just they think that by being right, by doing this, that they are making the world better because they're changing people to think the right way.
Which is their way.
Which is their way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just that's a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah, that
whole
we'll
thing.
save
And
that
I don't
one.
want to.
We'll save that one for our next one.
Yeah, that's
Next time we'll go a little.
yeah.
bit.
That we can go deeper into that.
Yeah, but
yeah.
This will circle back to being an empath. The thing is a lot of times what I realize is that, like you said, people do think that they're doing the best. Mm-hmm. And you also don't know where they were, like what's going on, what's gone on in the past, what's going on right now. Yeah. So the way I live my life, and again, I really believe the way that you live your life is, we don't know what's going on. Let's just leave. My goal is to leave people better.
Yeah.
Like every day, like even if I go to Starbucks to get a coffee or whatever, my goal is, how can I make this person's day better?
Yes.
Even like, thank you. You know what I mean? Just like the kindness. So.
Yeah. I have different sanctuary, and boundaries are also super important.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can get tapped, and saying no politely, and not and it's not saying it's not you, it's not anything dealing with you. It's I need this from me.
Yeah.
Right. So there's actually ways that I coach on that, on how to say no without making someone feel like you're rejecting them, because especially when you're in sensitive industries.
Yeah.
Where egos and you're dealing with all this, you do have to adapt in some way because of, and I do, depending on who if you're with a bunch of survivors, right, you're going to have to adapt language versus your football buddies or a sports team, right, without changing who you are at the core, being sensitive to the audience. And the audience could be the audience of 1 or 1,000 or 5,000, and you try to sort of navigate that, but you need to be aware of that.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing I want you to talk about.
Okay.
Let's talk about unsilenced voices, because human trafficking is something, like, one of my biggest whys is eradicating human trafficking, especially being in the entertainment industry. Like, I'll do a whole podcast on that one day, but
that's it.
When I was about 15, 20 years ago, I encountered a little girl who was caught in sex trafficking, and it destroyed me for life, in the best way, because I didn't, like, you hear about things and then you meet someone. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about unsilenced voices, and we'll give Michelle a little shout out too.
So Michelle Dewsbury again, definitely
powerhouse.
Pour into her. She is a powerhouse, and she's got the support of some amazing people for an amazing cause. Unsilenced with a D, voices, all one word, .org.
Yeah.
So right now I'm in an advisory position because I didn't have my bandwidth to be there in terms of an active board.
You're doing
position.
a lot of things. You're doing a lot, Jackson.
But when I was more active and involved and meeting, I've met some people from other the Child Liberation Project in Hutchinson. I've talked with him. He's a friend, and I was actually talking with one of his undercover folks that actually went in on some of these operations, right? And then I got to also talk to survivors, and hear their stories. And unless surprising, most everyone knows someone, if you weren't the person yourself, that's been in a domestic abuse situation or a trafficking type of situation. It's pretty incredible, the numbers. That was the first thing that shocked me.
It's a shock to the system when people hear the numbers, especially with human trafficking.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It messes you up.
Yeah, in the millions and millions of people. And when you have that kind of evil,
It's evil.
evil happening, you can't help but impact the world
Yeah.
and a society and way that people are brought up and learning and who they were associated with.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the end result in terms of helping the survivors is a one small part of it, but it's stopping the faucet at the source. That's the huge part of it.
Yeah.
And that's through education. So when I first got involved with this, I was just shocked at the things that people do to each other. Like you see stuff
Especially
in movies and all
kids.
that, but then when you say, "Oh my God, that was a
That's
locked in
real.
a cage on a bed and a little kid," just you hear these stories, some very extreme for years that these people are in this, and it was pretty intense, pretty dark.
Yeah.
Right? And so, what was the question again in terms of what
Talk
Michelle's...
about unsilenced voice.
Yeah, so Michelle's really doing a lot in terms of setting up, working with other companies and organizations for places that people can go for help.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's both the survivors and the folks that know survivors. So if you know someone that can't talk about it, right?
Be their voice.
And it's also an uncomfortable subject for people that have friends that are doing it. They don't want to alienate or upset the person, right? But they know that they need help. There are places that you can go to if you know someone who's involved in this, like Unsilenced Voices. You could go right to them, and they could send you to resources to sort of either the resource can sort of work a way to reach out to the person, or they can help you, coach you,
That's
and
awesome.
getting that person the help that they're needing. So
Wow.
that's some of the work that Michelle does, is sort of tie the pieces together so they're not a one-stop shop, but when you come to them,
They're a hub.
You can talk your story.
Yeah.
You can start being around like people and telling your story, which is healing
Yeah.
by itself, and then they can set you up with the folks within the network to sort of start working on that. So
It's awesome.
yeah.
Well, Jackson, where can my viewers find you? You are like such a resource of knowledge. So where can they find you? Where can they follow along? And
The best way to do it right now is at jackson.coach. That's one way. That'll take you to my personal page, and then bigaction.life. So www.bigaction.life. And that will take you to a page that will put you on my mailing list, where I talk about the NFL alumni events that we
Awesome.
have, like mixers with businesses and all that. So I always say there's no reason why you wouldn't want to be on that list because literally we know everyone in the community through our events. And then also the bigaction.life brand, we're going to start doing more events and speaking and things like that. So you'll just be in the end.
I want some next level swag.
I'll get you.
I-
We actually have
need-
branding.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Big
good.
action,
Okay.
big action labeled stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
awesome.
So yeah,
I want some swag.
I'll definitely get you it.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode of Coffee in the Green Room, first of all, make sure you hit subscribe. We're available on all streaming platforms because here at Coffee in the Green Room, we have those conversations that you may not have outside the green room. So I have amazing guests lined up. So make sure you subscribe. You do not want to miss an episode. And thank you so much for being here. And Jackson, thank you again so much for
very
this
welcome.
episode. This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
All right.